Hello. So I'm back with another update. Reading's going pretty well. It's going to be an update and also the first wrap-up. I guess I'll be having two wrap-ups for September because I've finished some books. I'm going to get them back to the library. But let's start with the ones I have not finished yet. So, The Astonishing Color of After. Oh, you know what? See if I can. Sorry. I am currently chapter 31, so I'm 120. I've read 121 pages, and not much to say. I mean, it did get a little better, I think, when we went kind of, and I'll be including spoilers in this, just to let you know. When we went and kind of visited the past and the girl, which now I can't even think of her name. Lee is her name. She and Axel. She had a crush on her friend. So it was better. I haven't read too many books, and which is the whole point of this Read Becky Read challenge. But I feel like I can tell that this is a debut novel. Like, there's something about it that is just, it feels kind of green to me. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's just how I feel. So I did want to make one correction though. I spoke about how she drew a picture for her grandmother to try to explain about her mother. And I was like, why doesn't she just take out her phone? Why doesn't she just use some kind of translation app or something? Well, I guess she didn't have that kind of access because this girl came over to her and said, there's a SIM card in that box too. Do you have a smartphone? The card I brought gives you internet access. I thought that might be helpful. And so I was like, oh, okay, so there's a special kind of, I guess different countries you need different kind of SIM cards for. So that's fine, except do the grandparents not have smartphones? I guess it's possible they don't. I thought it was weird how her dad was going to Beijing, Hong Kong? Where was he going? And he got a phone card. Was the phone card for him? I don't see why it should be. Or was it a phone card for the grandpa? I don't understand that. So whatever. So, you know, it's just blah blah blah, I guess, whatever. The Song of Achilles. I was trying to finish this before my next video, but it didn't work out. It is, you know, it's basically just fan fiction, right? I mean, Madeline Miller, she didn't create this world. There is no world building of her own. She didn't create these characters. I saw Troy was on the other day, so I clicked to it, and I haven't seen it since it was in the theater. I saw it when it was in the theater, so I don't really remember anything about it except Brad Pitt has blonde hair and he's Achilles. And they mentioned, or I was like, so is Patroclus in this? And I looked through the cast and I was like, Patroclus is in this. And so I was watching something else, so I kept flipping back, and when I flipped back, Achilles was like, what of Patroclus? And they told him that he was dead. And I was like, uh-oh. And so I never got to see him. And apparently, my brother said they're cousins in that movie, which I don't know what is accurate. Is that movie more accurate, or is this book more accurate? I don't know. Maybe just because they grew up together, they call each other cousins. I don't know. But anyway, Achilles freaked out. He even, like, grabbed the throat of the woman he was sleeping with, and I was like, interesting. Did that movie at all work towards the inspiration behind this book? I have no freaking clue. But so I'm enjoying the book. There are a few things I wanted to say. it got to be, I mean, this is very, it's like a soap opera, and I don't appreciate that at all. Because I thought it would be a bit more high caliber than a soap opera, but it's just, so Achilles ended up being taken to this island by his mom because she didn't want him to go fight in the Trojan War. She didn't want him involved in this Helen kidnapping thing at all. And so she hid him on an island and had him pretend to be a girl. But she, like the princess, she married the two of them. They got married. And she made Achilles sleep with the girl. And she said, I'll tell Patroclus where you are if you consummate your marriage. And I was like, oh my God. And so he did that. And no, she never told Patroclus where Achilles was, but Patroclus found out and he went to go save him, not knowing all of this happened. And so when he realized, or when he found out that Achilles slept with this girl, he was devastated. He was heartbroken. But then guess what he does? He sleeps with the girl. And so I was like, why are you doing this? What? So I was like, okay, maybe in this society, people can, there's like cheating, there's no stigma around cheating. But I was like, no, you were devastated when Achilles slept with this girl, so there's no excuse for this. I don't care if you thought you were comforting her, like that doesn't even make sense to me. And so she was like pregnant with Achilles' baby. And so she was going to be sent off to go have this baby in secret or something. And so I was like, okay, so either, she's really jealous. She wants to be with Achilles. And so either she was trying to deliberately put some kind of like rift between them, or she wasn't really pregnant. Patroclus said, you know, there's her baby bump. But I was like, what really is a baby bump? She could just be full. She could have just eaten or something. But I was like, maybe she's not pregnant and this was her last chance to actually get pregnant, and have it be, still say it's Achilles' baby. So I don't know where the heck that's going, but as of now they're being shipped off to the Trojan War. And so, and I don't think Achilles knows that Patroclus slept with this girl. Not happy about that. I'm also not happy that, I think, you know, obviously this is a tragedy, right? So, why am I doing this to myself? But I wanted to read this. This is from page 167, and it really makes me mad. They're trying to convince Achilles to go fight on behalf of Helen. And so he's kind of considering it. And Patroclus is thinking, you know, no, he can't do this, but he's not really voicing his opinion. And Achilles says, I do not think I could bear it, he said at last. His eyes were closed as if against horrors. I knew he spoke not of his death, but of the nightmare Odysseus had spun, the loss of his brilliance, the withering of his grace. I had seen the joy he took in his own skill, the roaring vitality that was always just beneath the surface. Who was he, if not miraculous and radiant? Who was he, if not destined for fame? I would not care, I said, the words scrabbled from my mouth. Whatever you became, it would not matter to me. We would be together. I know, he said quietly, but did not look at me. He knew, but it was not enough. The sorrow was so large, it threatened to tear through my skin. When he died, all things swift and beautiful and bright would be buried with him. I opened my mouth, but it was too late. I will go, he said. I will go to Troy. Oh my God. His, reputation, his fame is more important than staying with Patroclus and just living their lives together and being happy. So, that's disgusting. Not happy with you, Achilles. Not happy. But Patroclus, you know, goes with him. So, now this is weird. So, up until page 182, everything was in past tense. And then we get to 183, and it's this separate little tiny scene. and it's in present tense. And I was like, oh, so was the whole book up until this point Patroclus just kind of reviewing the past, and now going forward he doesn't know what will happen? But then the next page we go back to past tense. So I'm not sure what that means. I'm definitely going to keep my eye out to see if present tense. I mean, am I wrong? Later, Achilles sleeps next to me. Odysseus' storm has come, and the coarse fabric of the tent wall trembles with its force. I hear the stinging slap over. I mean, this is present tense. I don't know. I don't know what that means. But right now I'm on page 188, I think. Strange the Dreamer. I'm on 106. I like it. Don't really have much to say else about that. I feel like it's going strong. I feel like I totally believe that this is happening. No problems believing that in that world. Like, I really like it. Unfortunately, I already know like what happens in the sequel, and so I'm not sure I'm going to be reading the sequel. But I'm definitely looking forward to finishing that book. So the first 15 lives of Harry August. Very well done. I can't even imagine the kind of outlining Claire North must have done. Like, how complex is this story? So complex. Just a lot of, like, I feel like she must have majored in history or something. Like, she knows a lot about it, I feel. And it got really, really dark when we were learning what happens to, I forget what they're called, but these people who live their life over and over again. It got a bit too dark for me, and that's when I realized, you know what? I don't think I like dark stories. Because it was really vivid what they did to that poor baby. It's like they knew what the baby would do when the baby was older. But how do you do that to a child, like an 11-year-old, and then they did to a child, to a baby? I can't. That was really very graphic. So I have a quote. It's very interesting to me. Page 89. Private Harry Brooks poured his heart out to a distant stranger who made no reply. But I knew that what I needed was not so much the comfort of return, but to speak of what I had been. The telling was all, the reply merely a courtesy. Yet I longed for it with a childish passion that I could not fully attribute to my hormones and physical biology. I began to grow angry in my father's presence, knowing that he had received the letters of Private Brooks and read them, and marveling that he did not weep and could maintain such a carapace of stone in the face of my genuine anguish. My fury must have been visible briefly on my face from my... Okay, so that was really interesting that he was able to confide in his father, and then he just kept sending him letters, and he never got a reply. He did end up getting a reply, though. Just thought that was... I just think this book is just so substantial. It's really good. It's really good. I really thought it would be difficult to understand, but it's not. It's really easy to read. Very interesting. So I'm on chapter 30, page 127. Good job, Claire. Good job. Okay, so the books that I have finished now. This is very, if you knew me, you'd be like, wow, you finished 3 books in just a couple weeks. That's very impressive. So, yeah, I'm really proud of myself. So, Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe. This is like an outline of a book. This is a shell of a novel. I wrote some things down. Yes, a shell of a book. This is minimum effort. A complete lack of respect for the written form. How insulting is this book. This is what you do when you're lazy, okay? When you don't want to commit to writing. It really is disappointing. It angers me. It makes me a bit resentful knowing the amount of effort I put into my own book and knowing how hard it's going to be to get published. And this guy, he just, because I think, you know, he's published things before this, so he was off, like he had an in. But how do you not write better? I don't understand this. How lazy is this? And it's so weird. So Ari knows that his best friend Dante is gay, and his own brother is in prison. And so the whole book, he's like, I want to know my brother, blah blah blah. And why is he in prison? Like, what happened to him? What did he do? And finally, he finds out why his brother is in prison. He picked up like a prostitute. But then he found out that the prostitute was actually a guy dressed as a woman. A transvestite is what he said. And he beat the shit out of the guy until he died. And he tells that to Dante. And it's like, oh wow. Oh wow. So your brother is a huge homophobe. And he killed a man just because he was a man. There couldn't be like, oh dude, why would you do this? Why wouldn't you tell me you're a guy? Okay, please don't approach me again. Like, that's not what I'm interested in. Like, and then that was it. How do you write a gay love story and then have the main character's brother be homophobic? Now, I think there's going to be a sequel to this, so maybe he'll go into more depth. I don't know if I'll read it. Dante felt like a richer character than Aristotle, which is crazy to me since Aristotle is the main character. And also, it's written in past tense, so there should be some reflection in the narrator. But no, I don't know why I felt this. I don't know why I said this. I don't know why I did that. I was like, but now, in the future, shouldn't you know why? Shouldn't you be giving the reader a little bit more substance? So, did the end make me cry? Yes, but that's because I'm an HSP, highly sensitive person. And I just finished a book, so it was probably mixed between, you know, I mean, Aristotle became a much likable character once he understood his feelings for Dante, but I don't know what to say about that. I feel like, I mean, no tabs, nothing. There's just nothing. Also, the author, Benjamin, he is a poet. And so I remember seeing in comments people saying, gosh, this book is so easy to read. The prose is so wonderful and smooth and lyrical. And there's no wonder because the author is a poet. People need to raise their standards if this is considered like poetry. So another complaint is that all the characters sounded the same. There was no difference. They all sounded exactly the same. Not cool, not cool. It just felt, you know, immature to me. Could have been better. I don't even know how to rate it. I have no idea how to rate it. So I guess we're not going to be rating it. Thanks for the Trouble by Tommy Wallach. Hey, look at all these little things. Let's see if I can get through them. Is this even necessary, Becky? Oh, for anyone who knows about the Mandela effect, this is interesting because he mentions the Thinker. And so they actually go to see like a replica of the Thinker. And he said it was that famous one of the guy resting his head on his fist. Now, if the chin is actually on the fist, why wouldn't you just say chin? But Tommy Wallach said head. So I thought that was interesting. It just might be easier to say head rather than chin, but honestly, why would you do that? This was weird. So this girl, Alana, the chess the chess girl who cares about racism but not homophobia. Alright kids, Alana says, duty calls. Let's make like a couple practicing the rhythm method and pull on out of here. So I was like, I've never heard of the rhythm method before, but I've heard of the pull out method. So I looked it up, and yeah, the rhythm method is definitely not the pull out method, and I don't understand if this was supposed to be funny. I don't know what Tommy was going for with that, because he just completely like jumbled up two methods, and so I didn't find it funny. I found it stupid and juvenile and misinformed. So I didn't get it. I didn't get it. Oh, so that was paid. Oh, so the thinker was 133 and the mixed metaphor, whatever, was 163. And then on 166, Alana again. Oh, I'm thinking straight as a fucking arrow, Alana says. Okay, that's fine. I'm thinking straight as a frat boy. Now, where is that sleazy little shit? Okay, so why did she need two metaphors or whatever you call this? I'm thinking straight as a fucking arrow. I'm thinking straight as a frat boy. Isn't that a bit, what do you want to call it? Oh, I can't think of what you would call that. But it's like, so frat boys, they can't be gay or bisexual or asexual? Like, no. They're all, like, I don't know. It was a turn off, you know? Just a turn off. Like, I don't understand this. So then, Trevor's parents press charges. Oh, and maybe, okay, so Parker, he mentioned at one point he was like arrested or something, and so he finally got back to it, and so he's talking about how someone was bullying him at school and how he never fought back, and then one day he did, and he ended up pushing this kid into the road, but then he got hit by a car. Trevor did. Trevor's parents pressed charges, and maybe because he was white and I wasn't, I got this minor version of assault put on my record. Oh, so it's because you're not white that you got charged with assault. Oh, it's not because you pushed a kid in the road and he got ran over and you just never reported him for bullying before, because if you did, I don't think it has nothing to do with you not being white. So again, with this race stuff, I'm just not understanding why this is included. 177. This was gross to me. 182. Then she stopped. She sat up on top of me like a little kid, her knees spread on either side of my hips. So this girl that he's interested in, Zelda, she mounts him. And he says she sat on top of him like a little kid. That is just, why? Why would you say that? Why? Gross. 220. Now, I don't know if this showed up earlier in the book. It very well could have. It either didn't hit me or just did. This might be the first time, but there's a character in the book named Tom. I was like, but wait, isn't the author named Tom? Oh my god, who does that? I don't care if it's some kind of self-insert, like poking fun at himself. That's just weird. Unless you're Jane Austen, and I completely buy that you don't socialize very much and you're not that aware of many names, and Jane is a very common name in your era, then no, what are you doing? So I don't understand why Tommy Wallach would name a character Tom, and I'm not gonna go find out why, because I don't care that much. It is just weird. So I noticed that on page 220. And then let me see. Is this first? Oh, okay, so the best quote in the whole book. I'll read it. It's kind of long, but I think it's worth reading. I mean, it's a big spoiler. I mean, honestly, it's... You shouldn't read this book. I don't know why anyone would read this. People I saw on Goodreads said it was lyrical writing. I was like, what? This is lyrical writing? So this is about pointillism. So exactly, the dot sky. This is Zelda speaking. Of course, it's Zelda. She's the only likable character in the whole story, and it turns out she's probably not even real. I'm sure. I mean, this whole book is Parker writing a college essay so he can like be accepted into college, even though he's saying how he was arrested and he steals. He's a thief. I was like, this guy is not likable. I don't understand. I don't understand. And Tommy Wallach, wow. If he's like, well, this book is good enough to get published, then it can totally get my character into college. I'm just such a no, I don't like it. I've always thought getting older was a bit like looking at those paintings, the pointillism paintings that are made up of all the dots. You're born, and that's when you're standing right up next to the canvas. Nothing makes sense. Nothing makes any sense. There's just a lot of light and color, but as you get older, you begin to back away, and that's when the image starts to cohere. All those little spots of color turn into flowers or people or dogs. You gain perspective. But when you live forever, that is if you were to live forever, you would have to keep backing away, and pretty soon the painting would just be a square of brightness way off in the distance. You could still remember what it looked like when you were closer, but you wouldn't really be seeing it anymore. And then you keep moving away from it until you couldn't even make out the color anymore, until the painting was just the single point of light. And then it would be swallowed up in the darkness around it, like a star winking out. The grief would be so huge, don't you think? Not just because you'd lose the people you love, we all have to do that, but because you'd have so much perspective. You'd see the terrible sweep of history, repeating its tragedies over and over again. You'd sink under all that time like a scuttled ship. So I kind of feel like he wrote the whole book just so he could do that quote. And I thought this was a book about dealing with suicide. No, I don't. I think it's disrespectful because this girl was immortal. Now, unless this girl really did exist, and in order to cope with the fact that this girl that he like fell in love with committed suicide, he made her bigger. He embellished her story, made her more than what she was to kind of just cope with that kind of grief and guilt. Probably guilt because he didn't do anything to stop. He didn't really do anything to stop her from. He could have called the authorities. He could have done something. He didn't. He could have spoken. He could have tried to say. He didn't. He couldn't speak. You know. So, what a just wasted potential this book is. I think if it was not a college essay and Tommy Wallach just told the story, it would be way more powerful. And yeah, it's just wasted potential. It's just, I think it's kind of lazy. Quote from 245. Oh, pointillism was 230, so 245. And where there is no fear, there is no bravery. Good quote. Let's see what I have written down. Yeah. And wasted potential because Parker, he was mute. And he was dealing with, like, the trauma of losing his father. And I really wanted there to be a twist, that dealt more with that. And he took all the pictures of his dad and he just threw them out on the side of the road where his dad had died. And pictures are flying everywhere. I was like, you're going to cause an accident, you asshole. So just... I don't like it. I didn't like it. And then he was like, I told you at the beginning of this story that I wasn't going to pretend like sex doesn't exist. And so, you know, so I'm not going to skip over this part. about when he and Zelda had sex, but then he said, I won't bother you with the gory details. I don't understand who the audience is for this book. And on the back it has all these quotes about we'll have readers, it's compelling, we'll have readers racing to the final pages and pondering its ideas long after. I was like, wow, this must really be worth reading. No, all of these are about his other book. We all looked up. So, so finally, I finished Challenger Deep, and now this is a freaking book. This is a book worth writing. It was written by, you could tell, someone who's serious about writing, someone who's experienced in writing. It was beautiful. It was fantastic. It was excellent. If I wrote this book, I would have been proud as shit. There were moments, I mean, the writing was so smart. I would laugh because it was just so impressive and so smart. And then I'd say, oh, I shouldn't be laughing. This is really, really serious and very, very sad. So then I would feel completely guilty. Oh, by the way, I don't know how to rate Thanks for the Trouble either. I don't. But anyway, so I was trying to figure out. I thought that, I think I must have seen in a comment somewhere that said while he's at school, he's also on a ship. And so I was like, so these people on the ship with him, they should reflect people in his real life, but I'm not seeing any of these people anywhere. So are they all just kind of reflections of him? And so I got confused and was like, I think somewhere we should be joining these two storylines where we find out why he's on this ship in his head. And so, yeah, that came. And so it was like, he was not, I don't know what you call this storyline, but while he was in the real world, that was one timeline, and then the ship was a different timeline that started later in the story, but for the reader, we see it like at the same time. So smart how this was done. I'm beyond impressed. Like, what a fantastic book. And so, okay, here's a quote, 98. The captain is not entirely wrong to think me magical, she confides. This is about Calliope. Oh yes. I see things no one else does. Things in the sea, I ask? Things beneath the waves? No. It's toward the horizon that I cast my eyes. I see the future in the stars that ride the horizon. Not just one future, but all possible futures at once. And I don't know which one is true. It's a curse to see all that might happen, but never know what will. Fantastic. Fan-freaking-tastic. So when I'm on the outside. I have a note, but now I don't know why I said it. Sorry about that. You're as much the objects around you as you are yourself. Maybe you're in the tank with them. Oh. This was when I think he first kind of started to be on the ship, yeah. There was like a tank of fish at the mental hospital that he was at. Anyway, it's just so good, so good. So this is weird. I don't know if it will pick up, but look, a line with comma and then dialogue, and that was and so I was like, oh, maybe this is something that actually happens, not just in like UK books, like by UK authors. This was the only time it happened, so I think it was a mistake. Very strange. 153. You don't so much sleep as borrow 8 hours from death. So good. So then the moment I was trying to figure out, does he black out when he's on the ship? Like in real life, is he like asleep? And then Neal Shusterman showed us how it actually happens, and it was so freaking sad. It was so sad. It was on page 193. Like, reading it doesn't, reading out loud, it just won't have the same impact, but he showed us how Caden he's in his group therapy. I think he's doing art at this moment. And so you see Caden in the real world, but then you see that Caden does not believe he's in the real world. He thinks he's on this ship. So, ugh, so sad. Look, ugh, so sad. So sad. From page 248, I hear you are an expert shot, the captain says. This strikes me as odd, because I've never fired a gun in my life. Who told you that? I ask, not wanting to deny it. Word gets around, he says. It's well known that you've dispatched many an adversary on the fields of color. Oh, you mean paintball. So good, so good. And then from 282, one must always row with one's back to one's destination. I hope this, I don't know. Did it win any awards? I don't know how. I thought that he was actually in some kind of submersible going to the bottom of the ocean. I don't know if I read that somewhere or if that's just the kind of picture my mind conjured with Challenger Deep. And so he was on this wooden, like, pirate ship, basically. So smart. Like, you should read this book. And so I was like, okay. And so he's telling the captain, I can't make it to the bottom of the ocean in this boat. Like, we're not going to be able to do it. And so at one point, the boat turns to copper. And I was like, oh, and now they're in this, like, submarine submersible. And now it just remained the regular ship. So I don't really know what the whole copper thing was about. There must be meaning behind that. But so good. Obviously, I rate that the highest of ratings. On Goodreads, was it 5 stars? So good. So sad. And it ended very realistically, and I appreciate that very much. Just fantastic. Okay, so I'm gonna try to finish the Song of Achilles, wrap that up, and then I'm going to I think toggle back and forth with my other books. I feel like maybe I could read more going to different stories. I get less kind of tired, I guess. I don't know. The Astonishing Color of After, I think, is going to be tedious, but we'll see. Okay, I will see you next time. Whenever next time shall be.